ship, not that big.
Yay! Welcome, gods and goddesses, children of the creators of all creation, Mother and Father God of all creation. Thank you for being here for Chapter 2 of The Secrets of the Pirate Inn. And if you remember where we left off with a mysterious phone call. And it was for William Durden, the pirate guy. So Chapter 2, here we go. Chapter 2 is called At the Bucket of Blood. Mama went to the phone. The children listened while she persuaded the operator to read the night letter, even though she wasn't Mr. William Durden, who had been dead for 17 years. Thank you, she said finally, scribbling on the phone pad rapidly. Would you repeat it, please? Checking what she had written down with another. Thank you. And she hung up. Was it from Uncle Will? No, from Miss Dibble? What'd she say? Sally took the pad Mama handed her and read to the others. Please come at once. Your uncle says someone is hiding in this house trying to kill him and get his money. This is a delusion. He has no money. But if some relative will not come immediately and see about him, we will reluctantly have to get the court to authorize us to take over his care. The court will commit him if there is no one else to do it. Signed, Corinne Dibble. Icky name, Corinne, she added thoughtfully. Don't blame Miss Dibble, Mama repeated. She's just doing her job. It's a thankless job, trying to help people who don't want to be helped. She could just mind her own business and let them alone, Amy said. That is her business, I'm afraid, Mama sighed. Jack was reading the scribble over again. What's she mean by a delusion? She means she thinks Uncle Will's flipped? I guess so, Sally told him. But he does have some money, Amy said. If he could only think where he put it. Mama, we've just got to go and help him find it. Then he could hire somebody to take care of him. Like a manservant, Sally proposed, and Miss Dibble wouldn't need to bother about him. What do you know about manservants? Amy jeered. We never saw a manservant in our lives, unless you count yardmen like Pledge. I can read, can't I? And families on TV have them. Uncle Will could have one if he had plenty of money. I suppose your dad will agree that we just about have to go, Mama said. After that wire. We'll leave very early tomorrow morning, so finish your chores and you can pack a few things. 1 bag each. Play clothes and swimsuit and one nice outfit apiece. Wear shorts and sneakers, but take your good shoes and some socks just in case. Don't take anything superfluous. We need the space in the trunk for the cot and the sleeping bags. Something tells me we're bound to need those. I'll talk to your father on the phone and then send Uncle Will a wire. Though it's probably no use. He's not likely to get it, living way off from nowhere on the beach, I guess. Why don't we phone him, Jack suggested. Silly, Amy said. Uncle Will wouldn't have a phone. They were well on the way the next morning before Amy let out what she and Jack had been giggling about in the car's back seat. I sneaked in something superfluous, she confessed.
Superfluous. Unnecessary, especially through being more than enough.
They were well on the way the next morning before Amy let out what she and Jack had been giggling about in the car's back seat. I sneaked in something superfluous, she confessed, and I already read this. What? Sally demanded, turning half around from where she sat, by right of age, beside Mama in front. It's Jack, started to tell. Wait, it's Jack, started to tell. I told you, Mama said in exasperation. Oh, it doesn't take up much room. It's only the Ouija board, Amy said. I thought it might help when we get around to trying to figure out what that rhyme has to do with the money being hidden and all. We can ask the Ouija when we get stuck. We're already stuck, Jack said, grumbling. Matter of fact, I don't think we'll ever find out what that stupid rhyme means. I thought about it all night and I didn't get a single clue. Clues! Amy caught him up excitedly. That's what it is, of course. Everything mentioned in the rhyme is a clue. See? William, Mr. Trimbletoe, that's Uncle Will, because his name is William. And he's probably a good fisherman, Sally threw in, since he's living on the coast so long. That takes care of that much, Amy said. Catches fishes, puts them in dishes. What could that mean? Something is in dishes, maybe. The money? Or another clue. Like when you're playing treasure hunt, and one clue leads to the next until you finally find the treasure. I think we'll have to wait, Sally said, until we get there and see Uncle Will's place. His dishes, for instance, if he has any. I reckon so, Amy agreed. Then maybe we can tell what the other clues mean. Catches hens, puts them in pens. I do hope Uncle Will keeps a few chickens so we can look around their pens. They won't lay very many eggs, I bet, Jack prophesied. If we go digging for treasure under their nests, some lay eggs, some none, Sally reminded him. It was 2 gooses' nests, Amy said. Do you suppose he keeps geese, too? Not geese, gooses, Mama said. Why such a strange plural, I wonder? Uncle Will went to college, and he knew better than that. The rhyme was a little bit different when I heard it, she went on. I didn't hear it from Papa. I don't remember that he ever mentioned that particular rhyme to me, but I've been hearing what country folks call play party rhymes all my life, and that's one with a number of variations. In one version, the line you were talking about was one flew over the cuckoo's nest, instead of 2 gooses' nest. And there was another version in which the part about the clock ran down, the hands turned around, was the clock fell down, the hands ran around. Instead of with a dirty dish rag, another one says, O-U-T spells out, an old dirty dish rag. But Sally said reflectively, we'd better stick to the way Uncle Will wrote it down, hadn't we? Because that's what he hid the money by. Sounds reasonable, Amy said. We're pretty sure he had some money, Mama said, smiling. We don't think maybe he imagined it, the way Miss Dibble said. Of course not, Jack said. It wouldn't be any fun if we thought that. Besides, there's the diamond, Sally remembered. You said he told your father about finding that diamond a long time ago, before he got old, and what's the word? Senile? So there is a diamond somewhere. But it might not have been a diamond, actually, Mama said. Georgia isn't exactly a good place to find diamonds. They're almost never found in this state. There was a story in the paper once about the authenticated case of a diamond found in North Georgia. Not a thing, rubies. Rubies, yes, there are corundum mines, and even a few emeralds that have been found up near the North Carolina line. And there are plenty of amethysts and some aquamarine ore, but hardly ever diamonds. Well, Uncle Will's diamond was unusual too, Amy said. If he had wanted to, he probably could have had his written up in the paper. Papa did say Uncle Will told about having some diamond expert look at it, and the expert declared it really was a diamond and worth a lot of money, Mama conceded. But of course, Uncle Will might have just been making it sound like a good story for a little boy. I believe him, Jack said firmly. Matter of fact, I believe everything Uncle Will ever told was the truth. He sounds like a truthful man to me. Sometimes, Mama said, stories are truer than if they were factual. You mean some things are true even if they didn't really happen? That's right, Sally said, like Adam and Eve. Let's don't go into that, Mama said, a bit hurriedly. Though I guess I did mean an allegory is sometimes truer than mere facts. Let's sing, shall we? I was born 10,000 years ago. They sang until time for lunch. And after they found a hamburger place and ate, Amy and Jack toppled over against each other and fell asleep. When they woke up, they had left all the hills behind and were on a long, straight stretch of road with pools of water on its edges, where blue flags grew, and every tree they saw was hung with gray Spanish moss, drifting in the slight breeze. That one looks like Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's beards, Amy said. But I think it wasn't quite that long in the picture of him in my American Lit book. Henry Ward Beecher's was longer, Sally offered. Who cares, Jack said disgustedly. Old girls are always talking about hair. If it's not their own hair, it's some stupid stuff on an old man's face. for cripe's sake. Don't use that expression, Jack, Mama said maniacally. Mechanically. Why not? Kids use it in books. I don't like it. That's why not. It's a euphemism. When you're old enough to swear by any words you like, I hope you'll manage without euphemisms. They sound even worse than the words they're being used to avoid. I didn't know it was that thing you said. I thought it was a kid-type cuss word. So don't use it, Sally said in her superior big sister tone. Even if Carrie did in that book I'd let you read. What book was that? Mama said. Patrick Dennis's The Joyous Season. Haven't you read it, Mama? It's hilarious. The boy supposed to be telling the story is just about Jack's age, so I thought he'd like it. I didn't, though, Jack said. That stupid kid didn't have a thing to do every day but listen to grown-ups talking. I can think of a million better things than that to do. Grown-ups are kooky. Let's change the subject, Amy proposed. She hadn't read The Joyous Season herself. She was wishing Daddy could have come too. But he'd had to go to New York on business anyhow, and wouldn't have to stay home by himself every night. I bet Daddy would like to be with us, she said aloud. How much farther to Port Oglethorpe, Mama? I think we're coming into it now, Mama said. Just think, we've traveled all the way from mountains to the sea in one day. It took Sherman's army all spring and summer, Sally said. They had to march on their own feet, though, Amy said. But let's find out real quick the way to the beach. It must be somewhere else. This town doesn't seem to have any beach. She could see past the main street's weather-silvered buildings to the brown water. But there were long, gray, plank docks with dozens of large boats moored at the water's edge. Not sand. The scene looked like a picture. The boats had nets draped from tall masts, drying in the sun. It's just a little way to the ocean, Mama said. That water's probably the St. Anne's River. Funny kind of boats, Jack said. They all have girls' names. Maria, Teresa, Katerina, Lucia, Luisa, Maria, look at them. They're shrimp boats, Mama told him. Port Oglethorpe has a shrimp fleet. The shrimpers, I think they're mostly Portuguese, from a colony that settled here long ago. Go out to banks where the shrimp are plentiful and catch them with those big nets. There's a canning factory here too, and a freezing plant, so they have a market for all they can get. I read a Sunday magazine story about this picturesque little town not long ago. I hope we're going to be here just at the right time for something interesting they have every June. The blessing of the shrimp fleet. You could write about that for your school paper. What do they do at the... Well, this article described how all the boats are scrubbed up and painted freshly and decorated with flags and flowers. They start like a parade on the water at some given place in the Sound and Snail. The Sound and Sail, in a long line up the river to the dock. The owner and his family and friends are on each's boat's deck. Everyone has a pretty girl the owner has chosen to be Miss Santa Maria, or Miss Maria Teresa, or whatever, to represent his boat, standing like a figurehead at the prow. One of the girls, supposedly the prettiest, is crowned queen of the shrimp fleet. The boats, as they float by the dock, are sprinkled with holy water and blessed by a priest so that they'll have good fishing all season. After they're all blessed, they sail out to sea a good way and drop wreaths of flowers for each shrimper who died during the past year. Wish we could go on one of the boats, Sally said. Huh, Amy scoffed. You want to be queen of the shrimp fleet? Not a chance. You wouldn't know a shrimp from a tadpole, that is, until it's ready to eat. Freckles won't do it either, Sally teased. When Sally was being an especially nice older sister, she always told Amy that Freckles looked smashing, with golden red hair like hers and Amy's. Amy might have believed it if Sally had some freckles too, but Sally had lovely pale skin with merely a sprinkle of the little tan spots across her nose. Amy admitted that she had a few more than Sally, but she kept telling herself that she didn't care. Her dad had had lots of freckles when he was a boy. He'd even been called Speck. And now you could just barely see them if you were looking for them real hard. I like having freckles, she retorted. Freckles are neat, Doris Day has them. Why? She practically makes a career out of having freckles. Well, I'd rather go on a pirate boat than a shrimp boat, Jack said, if I could. Let's ask somebody where the old pirate inn is, Amy urged. Mama said, here's a filling station. I'll talk to the man while you all go to the restroom. I don't need to go now, Jack grumbled. You go, Sally said firmly. You're the one always who has to go, as soon as we get started again. Oh, all right. Mama bought the gas and got the directions. Amy came back and listened. Somebody usually had to help Mama remember directions, and Sally had said for her to do it this time because she wanted to comb her hair and fix her lipstick. Ever since her 12th birthday, Amy had been allowed to use a pale pink lipstick too, if she wanted. But all that stuff was too much trouble. See that road? The filling station man said. It goes a few miles parallel to the river, and then it comes out on the Sound. Nice beach there, but there's an oyster shell road that turns off the pavement just before it gets to the beach and runs down toward a bluff. You'll see the old place you were asking about, Mr. Will's place. As soon as you turn right on that little road, it has 2 big live oaks in front of it, with moss on them, Amy asked. Yep, sister, with moss on them. All the trees around here have moss on them, the man answered indulgently. The old place is about to fall down, but Mr. Will won't leave it, and I don't blame him. He didn't identify Miss Dibble, but Amy recognized her, said no dogs are allowed in that Golden Age home, and what would Buster do if Mr. Will went there? She said the Humane Society would take care of Buster, but Mr. Will said Buster hasn't got any more use for that kind of help than he has. He wishes they'd leave him alone. Says he and Buster would get along fine if they weren't being welfared to death. Say, are you relatives of his? Does he know you're coming? Yes, we're relatives. And no, he doesn't know we're coming, Mama told him. But he'll be glad to see us, Amy said confidently. Because we don't want him and Buster to be welfared to death either. That's why we're coming to help him. Well, let me know if you need reinforcements, the filling station man said. My pa used to go fishing with Mr. Will a lot before Pa died. And Mr. Will got too old. And they took me sometimes. I like the old guy. He knew where to get the best shrimp for bait in a creek that runs off St. Anne's, a little way upstream. He could stand in the end of his bateau and cast that net of his just once, and pull in more bait than we could use all weekend. And he used to take us marsh hen hunting. I guess you've heard of the marshes of Glynn. They're right up the coast away in Glynn County. Mr. Will knew a long poem about them, and he used to recite every time he went hunting marsh hens. As the marsh hen secretly builds on the watery side, behold, I will build me a nest on the greatness of God. He said a Georgia man wrote it, named Sidney Lanier. Funny how I remember that so well. I reckon it's because he told me so often. Since you know Uncle Will, Mama said, how do you think he is? Do you think he's still able to manage by himself, or does he need looking after, the way the welfare people think? Lady, I don't know anybody who's better able to manage by himself than Mr. Will. His housework don't drudge him at all, like it would a woman. He's got a power of old things he's picked up here and there that he never bothers to dust. He just enjoys looking at them. He sweeps the floor about once a month and cooks when he feels like it. Oh, it's a great way for a man to live if you don't care about having a wife and family. You'd like to be a beachcomber too, Amy guessed. Reckon I would, sis, if, like I say, I didn't have a wife. But Uncle Will's 88, Mama said. Sure, he's too old to do all the things he used to do, the filling station man said. He can handle a bateau and cast for shrimp by himself now, and he's too shaky to shoot marsh hens. But he goes crabbing and fishing off those jetties by his place and catches plenty for him and Buster. He taught Buster to catch fish too, catches them in his mouth. When a fish gets hemmed up in a shallow pool after the tide goes out, and you ought to see that darn fool dog eat crab and spit out the shells. Sally and Jack had to come back now and were listening, Jack asked. Is Buster a black and white dog with his tail curving up? How do you know? I just thought he was, Jack told him with satisfaction. Matter of fact, Uncle Will always has a dog like that. Is he pretty? Well, most of the time, Mama asked. Still troubled. He probably won't tell me. What if he got sick there by himself? When we found it out, some of us would go and help him. Everybody likes Mr. Will. I'd go myself, or anybody would. Miles Cameron has the beach shack that's closest to Mr. Will's, though. And Miles goes over there just about every day, just to see that he's okay. Of course, he doesn't let Mr. Will know he's looking out for him. Besides, he enjoys the old man. Miles is one of these here young rider fellows, and he gets lots of stories from Mr. Will, he says. Trouble with that welfare sister is, she don't think a soul over 60 can get along with her health. I got news for her, she don't really know Mr. Will. Well, I'm glad his friends think he can manage, Mama said, because I'm afraid whoever tried to change his mind about that nice golden age place will run into trouble. How long since he saw him, though? Miss Dibble sent a wire saying he thought someone was hiding in the house, trying to kill him and get his money. He hasn't mentioned it to me, the filling station man said thoughtfully, but I haven't seen him for about a week. Guess I'd better call Miles and see if Mr. Will said anything to him. Mr. Will might have just told her that to give her something to worry about, you know. He likes to worry, that welfare sister. Once he told her he hadn't a relative left in the world. He could have kicked himself, he said, when he let it slip later that he did have a nephew at Jasper, Georgia, named for him. My father, she wrote to him, so did Uncle Will, but since my father's dead, we came instead. After he made that slip of the tongue, Mr. Will told the welfare sister that he has a gracious plenty of relatives. He just don't care too much for them, so he leaves them alone and they leave him alone. Like he wishes the welfare would, he told her. He laughed, but I expect he'll be glad to see you folks. We aren't going to bother him, Jack said. We brought our own sleeping bags. We're just going to help him stand off the welfare sister. I brought my slingshot. Mama wouldn't let me bring my 22. Watch out for her glasses, the filling station man advised solemnly. Aim at her fanny instead. She's a fair target, about as wide as a whale. And come to think about it, she looks a little bit like one. No neck to speak of. Goodbye, Mama said hurriedly as she waved them all back to the car. No need to encourage Jack like that. Amy could hear her thinking. And Jack hadn't even told her, his favorite sister, that he had sneaked into the slingshot. Not even when she told him about the Ouija board. I'm Fate Sanders, the filling station man called after them. If you need any help at Mr. Will's, call me. Miles has a phone. Thanks, Mama called back. Amy and Jack waved as she drove off. Sally said thoughtfully, I wonder how old that young rider was. Oh, he's bound to have a long gray beard, like Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, Amy teased. I just hope he's not a hippie, Sally said. I can do without the beard. Girls, Jack snorted. Girls are kooky too, like grown-ups. Say, will you call me Willie when we get there? No, Sally said firmly. I see the road, Amy said. So that's what an oyster shell road looks like. They crush the shells. I thought they'd be like cobblestones. It was a white road. The fine particles of crushed shell gleamed when the sunlight was on it. But gray shadows from the moss-hung trees draped it too. In places it was like twilight. Jack reached out and caught a streamer of moss and pulled it into the car. Look, he said, examining it. It's not really gray. Underneath it's kind of a grayish green. Matter of fact, this piece is still alive. The dark gray kind must be the dead kind. There's a sort of funny smell, Sally said, but I guess I like it. It's the salt water in the marshes, Mama told her, and maybe a whiff of a paper mill that I think they have here too, as well as the seafood cannery. They give the wind a certain flavor. When it blows from the direction, they give the wind a certain flavor when it blows from the direction. But I like the atmosphere too. Even the sulfur taste of the water is interesting. And it's good to have cosmopolitan tastes, and enjoy the difference of various places. That water at the filling station tasted like rotten eggs to me, Jack said. Matter of fact, it smelled like them too. But feel that sea breeze, Mama urged. The tires crunched on the oyster shells. Hey, there's the Pirate Inn, Jack said. Just look at that, Sally said with some awe. Amy was looking. Behind the two massive trees stood a gaunt, old two-story house, as gray as the dead moss, as weather-beaten as the twisted scrub trees that slanted backward from the force of many years of sea winds on the bluff beyond. It had wooden window shutters that had once been painted blue and still showed a trace of the color. West Indy blue shutters, Mama said, almost as excitedly as Jack, as if she could hardly believe it. They used to paint windows and doors that color because they thought it would keep the evil spirits out. Mama knew so many odd bits of interesting things. Amy thought wistfully, wishing she knew about things like that. Mama said all she had to do was to keep reading, but Amy thought it was taking a mighty long time for her to get to know about everything. The house had grayed brick chimneys at both ends. They looked like tabby chimneys, Mama said, but they may just be homemade bricks. A wide double door, also once blue, cut across the left corner of the front, with rotting steps and a narrow stoop, both set triangularly at the corner. Above the steps hung an ancient wooden inn sign, with its paint now darkened with age. It might once have been red, Jack read aloud. The bucket of blood, wow. As the car came to a stop, sure enough, Amy could make out the primitive representation of an overturned pail. All around the front, sides, and back of the house grew tangled masses of vines, shrubs, and flowers. Even in the shade of the oaks, a good many of them were blooming. Amy had thought all the flowers needed sunshine. She wondered what all these shade-loving plants were. The only ones she recognized were oleanders and crepe myrtle, and wisteria that had finished blooming. The wrist-thick vines had strangled an old cedar tree to death. It looks like he hasn't even got plumbing, Mama said faintly. She was looking at the wooden outhouse at the edge of the side yard. It also was grayed to a lovely driftwood silver, and it was blossoming with pink flowers on the green vines that ran over it. But he's got coral vines, and there are some blue hydrangeas. No plumbing, Amy said. No bathroom. Here's a little picture. On there. At the end. Oh, nice. Investigating the inn. Pirates didn't need plumbing, Jack said. They just... Never mind, Sally said severely. We'll be camping out all right, Amy said. Neat and weird, Sally said. Well, Mama said finally, let's go find Uncle Will. And Buster, Jack added. Matter of fact, I always wanted a dog named Buster. I like Barkus better, Amy said as they piled out. The one he had when Grandpa Durden was called Wylly. Call me Wylly, do, Jack coaxed. Please, Amy, I'll pay you a quarter if you will. I've still got most of my allowance. No, Amy said, it wouldn't do. You might confuse Uncle Will. Old people confuse easy. Besides, I don't need a quarter. I've got most of mine, too, and there's no place to buy anything. I wonder why he doesn't come out, Mama said a bit nervously. He must have heard the car drive up. He thinks we're welfare sisters, Sally said, and that broke up the whole family. They were still giggling when they knocked at the aged blue door. had a leather thong for a latch string, a thong that when placed, pulled lifted a wooden bar to release a thin, springy piece of wood that was to catch. Jack tried it. Neat, he said. The door opened suddenly, and as they peered hesitantly into the dimness, a voice croaked, "Pieces of 8, pieces of 8." And that's the end of the chapter 2.
Woo! Pieces of 8. Pieces of 8.
A voice speaks from the new end. Pieces of 8. Pieces of 8. Who could it be? We'll find out next time on chapter 3. Thank you all for being here for the Trinity Story Times. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Thank you all.
Trinity Realms.
Trinity Realms.